Immunity in living organism. The life of any living organism is exposed to a continuous threats either from a biological sources such as pathogens, which includes animals, insects, and so on, bacteria, viruses, and so on, or from non-biological sources such as accident, natural disaster, or disturbance in the environment, and so on. Therefore, the living organisms are in continuous conflict with life-threatening danger, which make them improve their defense mechanism to survive. So, God has endowed the living organism with perfect methods of defense to face the changing methods of the enemy. All these methods are called the immune system. So, what is immunity? So, immunity is the body's ability to resist diseases, or it is the body's ability to resist pathogens into the body of the organism, or by attacking the pathogens and the foreign bodies and destroy them when entering to the body. The immunity system works according to two systems, which are innate immunity, which is created by its presence in the by nature, or it is acquired immunity, which is provided it through its life by man or by other things. Let's begin the types of immunity we are going to study. First of them, it will be the immunity in plants or the immunity in men. Then we will begin by the immunity in plant. If we look for this film, you are going to see some defenses which the plant make it against their enemies. Immunity in plants, the causes of the diseases and death in plants are limited in three main reasons. The first reason is the dangerous enemies, which are the grazing animal, insects, fungi, bacteria, and so on. These grazing animals and dangerous enemies make a bad effect on these plants, often causes severe danger or damages, may destroying the life of the plant or causing dangerous diseases. The second reason is the unsuitable conditions, from high temperature, from excessive cold, increase or decrease in the amount of water, deficiency of nutrients, unsuitable soil, and so on. Also, this make a bad effect on the living organism, which are dangerous, can be avoided or treated by demise their causes, although some toxic elements may be lethal to the plant. The toxic substance, such as smoke, insecticides, untreated sewage flowing from factories to the rivers and irrigation of water, and so on. All of this make the same bad effect from dangers can be avoided or treated by demises their causes, although some toxic elements may be lethal to the plant. So, how the plant overcome or make its defense? There is some ways of defense in plants. The plant defend themselves against pathogens through two ways. The first way, it is the structural immunity, and the second way, it will be biochemical immunity. So the first way is the structural immunity, and the second one, biochemical immunity. First of all, the structural immunity. It is the first natural line of defense in the plant through its own structures to prevent pathogens from entering and spreading inside it. The pre-existing structural defense, will be the first point. These structural defense are represented by the following, which are the epidermal cell or the cell wall. There is 2 points, the epidermal cell, and the second point, it will be the cell wall. The composition and the importance of each one of them, it will be for the epidermal cell, it acts as the first bulwark in the resistance. It may be covered with waxy layer or what we call it cuticle, forming water repellent surface. So water does not settle on the surface, therefore the suitable environment for growth of fungi and reproduction of bacteria is not available. The second point for the epidermal cells, it may be covered with hairs or thorns or spines to avoid the accumulation of water or being eaten by grazing animals, and so the chance of infection with diseases decreases. Also, the plant have another line, which is the cell wall. The cell wall, it is composed and important because it represents the outer protection of the cells. Also, it consists mainly of cellulose, and after thickening by lignin becomes so difficult for pathogen to penetrate. Induced structural defense, this is the second point, which is induced structural defense. It is represented by the following: the cork formation, the formation of telosis or tylosis, the deposition of gums, cellular immune structure. The fifth point, it will be getting rid of the injured tissues, or what we call it hypersensitive response. For the induced structural defense, it is represented by the following. First, the cork formation. These layers are formed to isolate areas that are exposed to cut or tearing that prevents the entry of the pathogen to plant. Reasons of cuts or tearing for the areas of the plant: due to the increase in the thickening of the plant during growth, the collection of fruits, the fall of the leaves in autumn, the human and animal encroachment. The second point, the formation of tylosis. The tyloses are overgrowth of the adjacent living parenchymatous cells, which protrude into xylem vessels and tracheae through pits. So they are formed as a result of exposure to the vascular system to cut or invasion of pathogen. These tyloses are formed as a result of these cuts or invasion by the pathogen. The importance of tylosis: obstruct the movement of the pathogens to other parts of the plant, or prevent the movement of this pathogen to other part of the plant. The third point, the deposition of gums. This film, it will represent the deposition, what happens when we cut a leaf. There is some liquid are coming out. This liquid it covers the place where it is cut. The infected plant by wound or cutting secrete the gum within the cell surrounding the locus of infection to prevent the entry of microbes inside the plant. This was the third point. The fourth point, cellular immune structures. Some morphological changes occur as a result of the invasion of pathogens, such as swelling of the cell walls of the epidermal cells and the cells under the epidermal cells during the direct penetration of pathogen, leading to inhibition of the penetration process through those cells. Surrounding the mycelium, which attack the plant with an insulator cover to prevent the transmission of the fungus from one cell to another. Number 5, getting rid of the injured tissue or the hypersensitive response. The plant kills some tissues to prevent pathogen to spread to the surrounding tissue, so the plant gets rid of the pathogen by the death of the injured tissue, as in this figure. The infected grapes are killed, and this in order not to be transferred to other or infect other grapes. The second point of or type of immunity, it will be biochemical immunity. The plant responds to the pathogen invading it by secreting some chemicals. This immunological mechanism includes the receptor that recognize the presence of the pathogen and activate the plant defense. They are compounds found in healthy and infected plants, but the concentration increases in the plant after infection. The function of this compound is stimulating the innate immunity or the natural immunity of the plant in the plant. The second point of this biochemical immunity, it will be antimicrobial chemicals. The antimicrobial chemicals, they are chemical compounds secreted by some plants to resist pathogen. These compounds may be found in the plant before the infection or formed due to the infection, such as phenol and glycosides. Phenols and glycosides. They are toxic chemicals compound that kill the pathogenic organisms such as bacteria or inhibit their growth. The production of non-protein amino acids. The production of non-protein amino acids. Also, it follows the antimicrobial chemicals. They do not enter in the structure of the protein in plants, but they act as a protective substance for the plant. They include toxic chemical compounds to pathogens, for example, cannabinoids and the cephalosporin. Cannabinoids and cephalosporin. Antimicrobial proteins, they are the third point. These antimicrobial proteins are proteins that were not present in plant, but they are produced as a result of infection. Its infection causes many diseases, so this function, the function of this antimicrobial protein, it reacts with the toxin, react with the toxins produced by pathogenic organism and change it into non-toxic compounds to the plant. So they react with this toxic substance and change them into non-toxic one for the plant, so the plant is not infected. Sometimes the plant produces detoxifying enzymes which interact with the toxins produced by pathogens and invalidate their toxicity. The last point in biochemical immunity, it will be inducible post-infection. Some plants promote and strengthen their defenses after the infection in order to protect themselves from any new infection. So inducible post-infection, it will be some plant promote and strengthen their defenses after their infection in order to be protected from a new infection another time. The role of men in protecting the plant from diseases. So there is a very important role for us to protect the plant, because the plant, they are very important for us. This will be through using herbicides to protect the plant from harmful weeds. The second point, combating the insect in different ways. By a biological process or by using insecticides. But we prevent using insecticides because they have sometimes side effects on men. Stimulating the plant to resist diseases, or by producing strains of plant resistant to diseases and insect through plant breeding using genetic engineering. So the last point, it is a very important one, because producing strains of plant resistant for diseases, it is a very important one. So we will not be obliged to use insecticides or using herbicides and so on. And this will be through two main points, which are plant breeding or using genetic engineering. The activation compounds of protection and resistance can transfer from one cell to another in a regular manner through the transport system in the plant, which corresponds to the blood vessels in animals. And now, my dear student, we reached the most important part of our lesson. It will be the questions. So try to answer the questions as we are going to say it. Question 1. Write the scientific term for each of the following statements. Write the scientific term for each of the following statements. The ability of the body to resist diseases. The ability of the body to resist diseases. Yes, very good. It will be immunity. The second one, the overgrowth of the adjacent living parenchymatous cells which protrude into xylem vessels and tracheate through pits. The overgrowth of the adjacent living parenchymatous cells which protrude into xylem vessels and tracheate through pits. Yes, tylosis. Types of proteins that were not present in plant but they are produced as a result of infection. Yes, antimicrobial proteins. The plant kills some tissues to prevent the spread of pathogen to the surrounding tissues. Hypersensitive response. Very good. They are compounds found in healthy plant, but their concentration increases in the infected plants. Yes, the receptor. Enzymes which interact with the toxins produced by the pathogens and invalidate their toxicity. Detoxifying enzymes. Compare between, second question, it will be compare between the structural immunity and biochemical immunity in plants. The second point, the formation of tylosis and the formation of cork. It is preferred in such a question to make a table. For the structural immunity, tyloses are formed as a result of exposure to the vascular system, to cut or invasion of pathogens. The structural immunity includes two types. Pre-existing structural defense, which is represented already present in plants such as the epidermal cells of the plant and the cell wall of the plant. Number two, induced structural defense, which is formed as a response of infecting the plant by pathogens such as the cork formation, the formation of tylosis, the deposition of gums, cellular immune structures, getting rid of the injured tissue by the hypersensitive response. In biochemical immunity, the plant responds to the pathogens invading it by secreting some chemicals. The presence of the pathogen and activate the plant defenses. Second point, antimicrobial chemicals, which includes phenols and glycoside, also includes the production of non-protein amino acids. Number three, antimicrobial proteins. Number four, inducible post-infection. The second comparison, the formation of tylosis and the formation of cork. First, the formation of tylosis. The tyloses are overgrowth of the adjacent living parenchymatous cells which protrude into xylem vessels and trachete through pits. Tyloses are formed as a result of exposure to the vascular system to cut or invasion of pathogen or by the effect of pathogen. The importance of these tyloses obstruct the movement of the pathogens to other parts of the plant. Then the formation of cork. The cork is formed to isolate areas that are exposed to cut or tearing that prevent the entry of the pathogen to the plant. The reasons of cuts or tearing for the areas of plant is due to the increase in the thickening of the plant during growth, the collection of fruits, the fall of the leaves in the autumn, the human and animal encroachment. Then the importance of this cork, it will be Isolation, the area that are cutted or teared that which prevent the entry of the pathogens to the plant. So this is very important for this type of cork. Then we knew the difference between these two. The third question, it will be give reason for each of the following. First of all, thickening of plant cells, number one, thickening of plant cell wall with cellulose and lignin. Yes, to make the plant so difficult for the pathogen to penetrate it. Number two, some plants secrete poisonous substance like phenols. To protect the plant, yes, from what? Yes, to protect the plant from insects and pathogens. Because the insects, when they eat this poisonous substance, they will die immediately. The third one, some plants are recognized by their hypersensitive response. Because the plant gets rid of the infected tissues by killing it to prevent pathogen from spreading to the surrounding tissue, so the plant gets rid of the pathogen by death of the injured tissue. The parenchyma cells adjacent to the xylem vessels and the trachea play an important role in protecting the plant from pathogen. Yes, because overgrowth from the adjacent parenchymatous cells protruded into xylem vessels and the trachea through pits known as tyloses, and these tyloses are formed as a result of exposure to the vascular system to cut or invasion of pathogens. And now, my dear student, we reached the final point of our lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.